Hey guys, Joshua Laycock here. I wanted to talk today about something that is near and dear to my heart only because I think for most of my life I sucked at this, which is cultivating and embracing a beginner's mindset. And it's a bit of a Stoic philosophy, and it's a philosophy that's been used in a variety of different ways, but essentially it is about reminding yourself, and really beyond that, really believing that in the grand scheme of things we know very little. Nobody knows really very much at all. And starting to be okay with that and reminding ourselves of that fact all the time. I work in a highly technical field, and I'm a product manager. I'm sort of the apex of the technical knowledge pyramid of this product line. Whoop-de-doo. But it's when you're the one that everyone looks to for answers about something, it's easy to inflate your sense of worth. It's easy to lose sight of what you don't know as much as what you do know. And that is something that is very dangerous. And it's ironic because it comes up in a lot of different ways. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. I think that if you look at sort of the evolution life cycle of, whether it's learning a skill or professional development, I sort of describe it this way. I think that when you first start out with something, you're terrified because you know nothing. And that is probably the purest moment for a long time for a lot of people. You step onto the mat at a jiu-jitsu dojo or gym, you get a new job, your first day at school, whatever that is, you know that you know nothing. And you're open, I hope, to taking it all in. And then you acquire a little bit of skill, and you acquire a little bit of confidence that comes from that competency. And you probably don't yet have a very good view of the playing field, but what you do is have a pretty good handle on what's right in front of you. So you think you're invincible. You think you know everything. And that's dangerous. That was a painful time for me in my career, because there was a long point in my career where I was an ass and I was pretty arrogant because I thought, no, I knew everything about this thing, and how dare you think that I'm wrong. And that's a tough spot for people to get in, and I think a lot of people can linger there and may even stay there if they're not open-minded enough to looking at situations. So you get in this position where you know a little bit. In your mind, you think you know everything. And then over time, sometimes 10 years in, for me it was about 10, 11 years into my career, when you actually start to gain the critical wisdom and the critical knowledge. And what is that? You start to recognize how little you actually know. You start to realize that, hey, I'm not an idiot. I'm fairly capable, but oh man, there's a lot that I still don't know. And I think with that comes an element of freedom. And that's that sort of beginner's mindset where you are more focused on being aware of what you don't know and recognizing that and making sure that that is a variable that you consider when you're making critical decisions. And where am I going with this? In life, if we pick up a little bit of skill, if we pick up a little bit of something, we can fall into this trap where you're no longer an absolutely green novice, an empty vessel, but you've learned a little bit. And that little bit is like 3 years to 10 years. That's a long stretch. And I think you're pretty blind, and I think that you can do a lot of damage to yourself and to other people during that period. And, anytime with anything that you think you know everything or the majority of everything, or if you enter into engagement or interactions with people with this knowledge that you're the superior person, or that you have more knowledge than the other person, I really think that if you're going to start to be self-aware, you should start to use that as a flag to go, whoa, I'm probably in some dangerous territory here, because chances are good my blind spots are still blind. And hopefully, if you can cultivate this beginner's mindset, this understanding that no matter how far along you are in your journey, you don't know everything, and in the grand scheme of things, you probably know very little. That is when the freedom comes. And what's ironic is, other than a few very specific life and death professions, I have discovered that admitting what you don't know, but then following it up with a willingness and a curiosity to find the answer, is much more well received than some sort of bullshit bravado, I know everything and you're fine. Now look, if I'm in for surgery, I don't really want my surgeon kind of going, I'm not really sure how to do this, so let's figure it out together. No, you're on your own, let's do this. You know, you're in combat. You don't want to figure that thing out when you're downrange. But for the most part, professionally and even at home, you know, if your spouse says, what do you think about this? Like I joke around about having an answer for everything. But I can tell you, the conversations that I've had with my spouse, the conversations that I've had with my kids, even as young as they are so much more fruitful and genuine when I say, I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's find a way. You know, knowing your limitations is remarkable because then you can fix them. I think a lot of people like to keep those blind spots blind because it's uncomfortable. And it's funny, although I'm still a white belt in jiu-jitsu, I hang a white belt in my office to remind me that I'm still always to approach things with a white belt mentality, to always be willing to listen and learn and recognize that I don't have all the answers. And then the last thing I want to kind of bounce off of, and this is in the spirit of the conversation that I had earlier about being kind and being right, is also recognize that everybody else is at a different point in their life, and they might be a fresh amateur. Maybe, hopefully, you're dealing with someone who's been around the block a few times, who has started to recognize what they don't realize. But the reality is, most of the time, you're dealing with someone who's in that sort of 3 to 10 year range where they think they might know everything, but they don't have a sense of where their blind spots are. And those people can be tough to deal with, but come at those interactions with empathy. They're blind. You know, treat it literally as if you would a blind person. Don't coddle them. Don't let them win. Don't give them a pass. But at the same time, be kind, be empathetic, recognize what those limitations are, recognize that they have other strengths that you probably don't realize, and go into those interactions with a bit more compassion, because hopefully they're coming at this with a beginner's mindset or not. I mean, you know, that beginner's mindset goes back and forth, not only from a technical perspective, but with every interaction. If I'm going to have an interaction with a human being and it's proving difficult, you have to take ownership for that and go, whoa, what am I not seeing here? What am I missing? How can I adjust my approach to having this conversation, or to get my point across, or to whatever? So that beginner's mindset needs to permeate all aspects of your life. And I think that if you can really start to do that genuinely, to realize, depending on where you're at in your journey, that maybe I think I know everything, so I probably know less than I do, or hopefully you've graduated to that phase where you actually realize how little you know, and then have that same kind of empathy to the other people that you're interacting with. I think life will get a lot better. Life will get a lot smoother. Hang a white belt in your office, because it doesn't matter what belt you are, you should be approaching life with a white belt beginner's mentality. Be an open vessel. Take it all in. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow.